I'm Jack Bowmaster, and you're watching Utefans.net.
Hey, Ute fans, welcome to another great episode of The Extra Point, brought to you by the Ken Garff University Club and presented by Utefans.net, the original home for Ute fans. I'm joined by Mr. Cal Beck and Robert Johnson. How are you gentlemen doing tonight?
Doing awesome. How y'all doing?
I'm doing all right, and it's good to be back. When the treetops are a fiery hue, you are in the heart of football season.
True.
So, Robert, what do you think happened with the Utes against Oregon State?
Honestly, it was one of those things where the offense couldn't get it going. It was a game where it made you think back to that UCLA game where it was our fans made a big push in some of the things that we was doing. But when you're down there in Oregon State, it's tough down there. Those fans are real, and it was hard for our offense to get things going, and we tried to stay in.
It's a tough place to play on a Friday night.
Oh, yeah. That was my first game ever seeing Division I football was down there, and all I remember is that third down. They say that's another OSU, and everybody point, first down. That and then the saw, the
buzzsaw.
Oh, my God.
Buzzsaw.
Yeah. Oh.
Cal, what are your takeaways from the Oregon State matchup?
Yeah, now that I've exorcised the demons, it's exactly like Robert just said. We had a lot of high hopes, but reality caught up to us. The injury train is still weighing us down as a team overall, but it's a tough place to play. They had something to prove against a team that was rated higher, and they came out and checked off their list of keys for success.
So we had a couple injuries in the Oregon State game, namely Bryson Barnes, who took that huge illegal hit, and then Logan Fano.
Yeah.
Which encapsulates this Utah football season. You get a sack and tear your ACL at the exact same time. It's been bittersweet for everybody.
What do you think about the injury situation with the Utes, Robert?
To me, it's part of football. You start understanding that this is what happens, and Coach would always say the next man up. But it gets tough for us because it feels like every year that we get in some of those big games, it seemed like the next big game we have some injuries, and it made me think back to our Pac-12 championship game. Everybody was pretty much healthy, and then all of a sudden, Rose Bowl come around, and there's a couple players missing that's on the injured list. So it kind of sucks, but it's really a big part of football of making sure you got depth.
And I think, Cal, you've touched on this before in some previous shows about the best teams are the ones that stay healthy, that they're healthy at the end of the season.
Yeah, football isn't the best football team at the end of the season. It's who's playing the best football, has good team synergy, and who's staying the healthiest towards the end of the year. You look at Utah's woes in the last couple of years. They've faced nothing but adversity, but it hasn't been injury adversity. We've been paying attention to a different type of adversity. We've been through it before, but how thin can thing get before it breaks?
Right. And I think the big question mark, and this comes up, I know, every single week, but Cam Rising. We don't know what's going on there. We're not sure if he's going to play. Robert, what do you think about this odyssey we've been on as Ute fans with Cam Rising and his injury?
It's kind of tough because as a coach, sometimes it's you don't want to let too much out. And that's just how it is. You don't want another opponent to get the upper hand of knowing what your depth is. And then on top of that, it turns more into like the fans. Sometimes we really want to know, and you got to remember as a coach, some of those decisions are tough to be made, whether you want to say something about it or you want to keep it within the team, because you just never know who's watching and who's listening and who's trying to pinpoint, hey, Cam Rising's not playing right now, so we need to jump on that.
And we don't have to release an injury report in college football. So, Kyle Whittingham, smoke and mirrors with Cam Rising.
So, well, what's the benefit of releasing your injury report? Whittingham has said consistently, tell me one good reason and I'll reconsider doing it. And now you started, I don't think it's smoke and mirrors, but it does speak to the brotherhood of the locker room that nothing is leaked.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a long time since something hasn't leaked out of the locker room. So, that just talks about the brotherhood and the camaraderie that we always speak about in the locker room.
So let's jump into the Cal matchup. Personally, I think this is a game that Utah can lose. Do you agree with me, Cal?
You can lose any game. That's why the game is played on any day. I mean, it's the best team that shows up on that day. There's the reason why we say they're better on paper, but they didn't show up on the field.
What do you think looking forward to this Cal game tomorrow, Robert?
I mean, it's going to be another a short amount of scoring, I'll say. It will turn more into can we score on defense? And maybe because I'm a safety, and that's one of my biggest things, is that you get more turnovers on defense that stops the opponents from scoring. And on top of stopping them from scoring, it gives us an opportunity to score. So to me, hey, field goals win games too. As long as you can stop them from kicking field goals, we should be in the game.
So this Cal team, who are they exactly? I mean, they put up 40 points against Oregon State, and then against Auburn, they scored 10.
Yes.
So what do you think about this Cal team?
Well, what are they ranked in the country in rushing? Number 6. Now, do you think our rushing defense is over or under that national ranking?
See, I say we should at least stop them. So we're under.
Yeah, we are the number 3 rushing defense in the country. So we should be able to meet them head on at the line of scrimmage. And that speaks to what we need to do as the keys to success. Their rushing game needs to be established because they have a redshirt freshman quarterback coming in to take the reins. And I know being a defensive player, a freshman quarterback coming into Rice-Eccles Stadium makes your mouth water.
Hey, it's time to eat. That's how I look at it. Any type of redshirt freshman coming into my home field with my fans, and the that's amazing here. And then our Ute faithful. It should be a tough game for him to even get any calls out without somebody jumping off sides.
Well, how successful do you guys think that freshman quarterbacks have been in this stadium since 2018? Very? Fairly? Not near successful?
I would wager on they've not been very successful.
It is a recipe for nightmares. Absolutely. We make them leave Sac Lake City clutching the sheets once they get back on the team bus. They are on average, since 2018 freshman quarterbacks, they're on average 12 for 26 in passing, 125 yards, 1 fumble, 1 interception, and 3 sacks. The last time a freshman quarterback started here, 7 sacks. So history is in our favor. Our defense is in our favor. But it's going to come down to what we do on offense and our rushing offense.
Yes.
Do you know where we are ranked in passing yards in the conference?
We're probably second to last, maybe. I'm not sure.
Dead last.
Oh, we dead last. Okay. Hey.
Dead last.
Yeah,
Okay?
I gave him some credit.
Dead last because we're averaging 2 yards a carry. Whittingham mentioned he would prefer it to be near 5. And that speaks to the performance of the offensive linemen and getting those running backs downfield. Now, why do you think that our running game is not the epitome of what we're looking for yet?
I mean, I noticed this past game in Oregon State, Glover, wonderful running back, but sometimes he wouldn't let it develop. But that's just me looking from a fan's perspective. He wouldn't let the play develop, as in letting the offensive lineman get in front to make that block. And I mean, he don't need to be Le'Veon Bell where he's kind of like, just slowly moving, but he should be able to at least let it develop. And he's so low center of gravity, he can hit the hole once it develops and make at least 2 to 3 yards a pop.
So like Guns N' Roses saying, just a little patience.
Little patience. Yeah.
I appreciate the Guns N' Roses reference there. So the big story of the game, Cal's D versus Utah's O. What do you guys think?
It's going to be exciting to watch. I mean, it's going to be... You look, with Jackson out of the backfield, Jackson was averaging 5 yards a carry, and now that's dropped to 2. That is going to be our biggest key for success, I feel, is our run game, because we need to control the ball. Our defense is doing a great job on the other side. That's of no question. We are number 1 in the country on third down percentage efficiency on third down. We are we're second in first downs allowed in the country. So our defense is stout. They just need to get off the field. How do you get them off the field?
Like you said, control.
Control the ball.
Control.
Right. So Utah can lose this game. It's very possible. They probably won't, is my prediction. What's the spread at, Cal? Is it 12.5?
I don't know what the spread is, but a lot of numbers changed on ESPN's website, and people are starting to think that it was inside information that Cam is playing.
We've seen that before, though. We've seen that story before.
We have seen it before. We've all put out our stockings, and we end up being disheartened the next morning. But in the end, I think that our defense is a week off. Who knows who's healthy? Who knows going to take the field? It's a new ball game. It's a new season. We're exactly at the halfway point. We've got some things that we need to do, and we've got some teams we need to get ready for, but we can't look past the Golden Bears.
Robert, what's your prediction for this game?
I mean, hearing the Cam Rising coming back, it got me excited. What I would say, though, is that if he does come back, this would be a good game as a get your feet back wet type of game for him, because you get some live action, you get some live bullets kind of going out there. But the way that I look at this game is that if we score on defense, like we should, because that's how I always look at it, we score on defense, we have a higher chance of winning. And that's what Coach Witt pushes, is that defense scores, we can win more games.
Robert, I can't agree more. And we'll be right back after a message from our partner, the Crimson Collective.
It's a community coming together to support University of Utah student athletes. It's our town, it's our team.
Crimson Collective, I'm in.
I'm in.
I'm in.
I'm in.
I'm in.
We're in.
I'm in.
I'm in.
I'm in.
I'm in.
I'm in.
Crimson Collective, our town, our team.
Welcome back to the Extra Point, Ute fans. I'm joined here by Sugar Bowl legend Robert Johnson and Freedom Bowl legend Calbert Beck. That's right, that's you. And Jordan Wynn is not with us today. Robert Johnson's filling in for him. We really appreciate you, Robert.
I'm taking his spot. Trust me. No, thank
Next
you.
man up.
Thank you. Next man up. Yeah, but thank you.
So, Ute fans, we have a special treat for you. We're going to do a player profile on one of Ute fans' own, Mr. Cal Beck, the Rocket. So my first question for this segment, Cal, is pretty simple, and I stole it from another Ute fans commentator. Are you fast?
Very. Still
fast?
Oh, yeah. You have to be when you teach first grade. Like, you got to be quick. They get hangry. You got to hand out snack in a hurry.
So, in my opinion, you're one of the greatest Utes to ever play at Utah.
Oh, you're just a little biased because your first game was
Well, my first football game for the Utes was the Freedom Bowl. And walk us through that Freedom Bowl really quickly, Cal. I mean, what happened in that game? Refresh my memory.
So the Freedom Bowl, we played Arizona, Desert Storm. They had Teddy Bruschi on defense. I mean, they were stocked. And we played it in the old Anaheim Rams Stadium, the old LA Rams Stadium. It was the last football game played in that stadium. And it was kind of special for me because that's where I saw my first NFL game when I was in 8th grade. So walking out on that field just for practice gave me chills. So fast forward to the game. I was able to contribute on special teams immensely. And that trend just continued throughout the night. I had 3 returns for 153 yards, which was the Utah record for return yards in a bowl game until Britton Covey's Rose Bowl last year. I was there. I'm glad he beat it. Don't at me. Thank you, Britton, for that. But I ended up fielding a ball, so we were winning. They took an intentional safety. Their punter walked out of the back of the end zone and figured it was better to kick the ball off to us than punt the ball. And I made him pay dearly for that mistake. Caught the ball. Of course, it was flying through the air in slow motion. You've heard all those cliches. And I caught the ball. And the next thing I know, the crowd was cheering. I was down at the 5. I got pushed out of bounds at the 5. Oh. And the crowd was going crazy. And we had 4 downs to push it in from the 4 or 5 yard line.
Took all 4.
And it did. It took all
4. Took all 4. So you are fast. Just to clarify, very fast.
Yes, I'm very fast.
So how fast were you when you were recruited?
So when I was recruited, I was arguably the fastest Utahn in history. I had the fastest 100-meter state record at the time. I had the 200-meter state record, and nobody's held them consecutively since then, I don't believe. My records have been beat, but it was me standing. I used to go to an outlook point that would overlook the whole valley, and I loved thinking to myself, nobody out there is faster than me. And that was my trend through high school. So I had multiple state championships. I was nationally ranked. I was an All-American in the 200. I was very fast.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but you didn't get a scholarship to play for the Utes until right before fall camp.
That is correct.
So tell me a little bit about what happened there.
And I know you love this story. I was recruited. I could have went anywhere for track. But back then in those days, you had to remember thinking past school, there was no money in track. If you weren't an Olympic gold medalist, you weren't going to make a living. And so, me making a living athletically, making a career athletically through proving people wrong and doubters. That was my motivation. My strength was people saying, you're just a sprinter in pads. A lot of people didn't recruit me. And then I found out my head coach in football, as schools were inquiring, was telling them, no, he's not ready for D1. He should go to JUCO first. So I didn't even get the opportunity to talk to a lot of schools that wanted to offer me potential scholarships. So I didn't end up signing a scholarship. I was going to go to Dixie, now Utah Tech, and be in the same backfield as Corey Dillon, who played for the Bengals later. And it was 2 weeks before camp started, and I got a phone call from the university, and it was McBride, and they had a player that didn't pass their admittance exam, so he had to go on Prop 48, which is academic intervention. It's like a gray shirt. And they had a scholarship open 2 weeks before the season started, and they offered it to me. So I walk into the building, and everyone's like, what are you doing here? And I'm like, I know, it's crazy. And that was the start of that magical freshman season for the university.
Robert, what questions do you have for the Freedom Bowl legend?
What was the weather like out there, and how did you get pushed out at the 5-yard line?
So the weather was smoggy.
Okay.
But it was much better than practicing in the stadium every afternoon through December. That's why they ended up with an indoor facility right after the Freedom Bowl. We had a huge inflatable bubble that people used to shoot holes in with BBs. Yeah, you could see the lights. But practice down there was much easier, and it was much more fun and much more warm. So going down there, it was a release, even though McBride took us down a week before the game because he wanted it to be like a mini camp. And a lot of our players back then, no in-staters usually signed with Utah. It was all out of state. And so a lot of our players were from that area. And so it was almost like a reunion for them going home.
So, Cal, in my opinion, you have a pretty fascinating story. And was it Doug Robinson?
Yes, Doug Robinson.
Des News,
Yes.
2012. If you haven't read it, check it out. There's a great story on Des News' website about Cal Beck. But what happened? What happened? I mean, there's the Freedom Bowl heroics, which diehard Ute fans know about those. What happened after the Freedom Bowl for you?
Okay, so 95 being my sophomore year, I had the opportunity to start at corner. And we had a young defensive backfield then. There was 3 freshmen coming in that were supposed to take over the defensive backfield once the seniors left. And so we had Harold Lusk as free safety. He was a sophomore. He was a junior because he was a year ahead of us. Clarence Lawson was the other freshman corner that came in on the left side. And then I was on the right side. Brandon Dart was the strong safety. And Brandon blew his knee out in training camp our sophomore year. So we had Mark Stevenson fill in, and Jeff Kirkman was also on board too. So 95 was a great season. We didn't go to a bowl. We got snubbed of a bowl because the bowl that wanted us had a military base right next door, and we split the conference championship that year with some other teams. So they took Air Force because there was more cadets were willing to be in attendance. So we won a conference championship, but we ended up not going to a bowl, even though 95 had some remarkable games and memories, a la the biggest and best comeback in football college history, quoted by ESPN when we played Air Force in Rice-Eccles.
In Rice-Eccles, 95.
Yes.
So you were faced with quite a bit of adversity. I mean, if you read the Doug Robinson article, it really touches on it. But, I mean, you pulled your hamstring. You had some serious hamstring issues,
My junior year. Yep. After being all-conference honorable mention at corner, I yanked my hamstring and just could not get healthy. I kept coming back too early because I felt unaccountable not being on the field. I wanted to do the most for my team, and I'm sure a lot of the Utes in the locker room are feeling this, I kept coming back too early. And we were trying to make a statement as a program. We were playing SMU down in the Cotton Bowl. And I remember a coach walking into film, and he looked and pointed at me and said, "You're playing this week." And I was like, you know what, that's news to me, but you know what, I'm ready to go. And SMU sees me checking the game. They take me deep twice. It both plays in a row. I destroy my hamstring even worse. And then it was just a fight to even get some plays. I did get to get in the game against the Cougars and lock down Chad Lewis, their tight end there, who played for the Eagles later on. Yeah. And I got to tease him because he said, "I thought you were hurt." And I told him, "I thought you were fast." So that into the 96 year. But then I started to come down with chronic migraine headaches.
Related to concussions.
Post-concussion syndrome. And back in those days, CTE wasn't a thing. Will Smith hadn't made the movie Concussion. It was still, you still tackled with your head up. You still do what is now deemed illegal. And I suffered a lot of concussions. Me and the doctor stopped counting when we got to 19 and 20, counting my whole career through Little League. Because when you're the fastest guy on the team, if you take Cal Beck out, you're going to beat Cottonwood, who I played for, go Colts. So I started to suffer some long-term repercussions. Couldn't attend class, couldn't practice, obviously, couldn't work out. It came to a point where I was depressed, sitting in a dark basement, just hoping that I could live a normal, somewhat functional life. I couldn't go to class. I couldn't hold a job. It was very eye-opening as far as life after laces. And we talk about that as a crew. I had no idea where it was going to go because all my eggs were in the athlete basket. And here I am holding a bowl full of cracked eggs and wondering if they're going to break. And so it allowed me to readjust my perspective on life. I took a medical leave for a couple of months for one semester, came back for a senior training camp that summer, did team conditioning, and then had another migraine in the dorms, missed team dinner, missed team meeting. And I woke up the next morning and just knew I needed to hang him up. So I walked into McBride's office and told him, I said, I've got to be done. I got to be done. One of the hardest things I've ever done. But I will say this, the coaching staff was absolutely supportive. They were Jugie Hogue, my defensive back coach, Kyle Whittingham, who was the defensive coordinator at that time, Coach Mack, the head coach. All of them were very supportive, and they understood. And that made it a lot easier for me to transition my focus on what comes next.
So how do you go from being where you just described to where you are now? It's a very successful first grade teacher.
Are you talking about my recess touchdown average or my presence in the
Yes,
classroom?
let's do a segment just on that alone.
So I was a sociology crim major and criminology major. Yeah. So I decided to get some real world experience before I got a diploma or a degree that I wasn't going to utilize in the real world. So I went and did some social work. I worked at a school for kids put in state's custody, either ordered by law, by judges. So it was an intake, lockdown facility. They went to school on campus, and I loved it. I was there for 2 years. I absolutely loved it. I always knew I would work with kids because I always loved the impact that kids would express to me when I would meet them at media days, or I would see them outside the locker room after the games, or I would see them at speaking engagements, because I never turned down a speaking engagement opportunity for the university. I won the Dr. Jack Curtis Burton Community Service Award in '95 because I was always out there speaking. I had 2 rules. I would never turn down a speaking engagement, specifically with kids, and I would never turn down an autograph. So I go out into the social work field, and the success rate was too depressing, 17%. 17% of these kids would end up graduating from the system and be allowed to go back into their homes. The other percentage, large majority percentage, would just age out of the system at 18. And I remember there was one kid that was about to go home in 2 days. It had been months, and he got frustrated and mad, and we were in the calm down room, and I'm like, dude, you got to calm, and he decks me. And that puts him back months, and my heart sunk more than my jaw was throbbing. And at that point, I was like, I can't continue to do this. I'll burn out. This isn't sustainable. So I left that. One of my best friend's parents are teachers in Rose Park, and they said, hey, come be an interventionist for math and reading. And I was hooked. I was absolutely hooked after that. And to hear the feedback and see the feedback that I could get from kids. And I'm not talking about the kids saying, oh, I want to be like you. I want to be an athlete. Them talking about, I love the way that you approach things. I love your process. I love the way that you build towards things, that you work towards things. And that is, you can do that in teaching. If I can prepare the world leaders of tomorrow for the challenges of today and forever in first grade and give them that momentum, they're ahead of the game. And that's the magic of first grade. That, and I average 3 touchdowns every recess.
Cal, you're one of my favorite Utes of all time. I think you're one of the greatest Utes to ever put on crimson for the U. And you're an inspiring person, and you're making the world, your part of the world, a better place.
Well, thank you. That's all I ever wanted, being a Ute fan. idolizing Sharif Shaw, who was on my wall, Eddie Johnson, who was on my wall. And then when I become part of the Utah family, I get to rub shoulders and elbows with these guys. And it's still surreal sitting on the stage with you because I watched you do your thing. We played in the alumni game together in the same defensive backfield. Like, it gives me chills just think about the camaraderie in the Utah locker room and beyond the classes that you played with. And that's the lovely thing here. Me donning on the Crimson, growing up a Utah fan, in being a non-LDS black kid, Utah fan. 3 reasons to get picked on right there. And I was. So it was kind of a personal mission of mine to help out the University of Utah and be impactful. And unfortunately, I was given the opportunities, and that's what happened.
Well, thanks for everything you do, Cal. We'll be right back after a message from our sponsor, the Ken Garff University Club.
The Ken Garff University Club in Rice-Eccles Stadium is Utah's premier social club. Members enjoy incredible dining experiences, co-working spaces, exclusive member events, and fun game experiences like tailgating, pep rallies, and watch parties. Membership starts as low as $80 a month and is actively accepting new memberships. To learn more about joining this beautiful club, go to kengarfuniversityclub.com to learn more.
I'm Jack Burmeister, and you're watching Goal Line Gossip, presented by Utefans.net.
Oh, yeah.
I'm here with Jonah Elliss, 2-time Pac-12 Defensive Lineman of the Week. Jonah, how are we?
Good.
Good?
Yeah.
Hey, mate. I know you've moving from linebacker to DN this year has been a bit of a revelation, so just run us through that kind of thinking and why they kind of moved you there and how you've gone about it and stuff.
Yeah, so it started off with like one of my rushes during fall camp practice, and I just kind of like dipped under one of the tackles, and I think Coach Powell just kind of got a sense that I should be playing D-end, and so I made the transition, and it was honestly like the linebacker scheme versus a D-end scheme in our program is like D-end is much more simple. So it's actually like a pretty easy transition scheme-wise, but physically it was a little bit more challenging just because I had to put on weight and get a little bit stronger so I could set the edge against offensive tackles and whatnot. But it's definitely a good move for me.
Yeah, nice. How good does it feel to have such a successful season after putting in that amount of work in the off season? Because we do work pretty hard in the spring and the winter. So how does it feel?
It was pretty good. I mean, honestly, it's like the job isn't done yet, but at the same time, it's like it's nice to know that like all the work we've put in is starting to pay off, and not even just as like myself, but as a team, like we're playing well, and we just got to keep it rolling.
Yeah. Well, I'm not getting one because of international NIL laws, but basically the Crimson Collective has donated us $6 million. I think it's 85 Dodge Ram Nighthawk editions, which is unbelievable. Never really been done in college football, so to say it's groundbreaking is an understatement. I know the players are just absolutely, the word around the locker room is grateful. And just the fact that it's never been done before, I think it's unbelievable. So you got any thoughts on that or?
No, like you said, we're all very grateful for like the opportunity to get these trucks. And I know a lot of like the younger guys that don't have cars out here and gotta like commute places and
a lot of the freshmen are on scooters, even in the winter. You see them coming on their scooters. So just for those guys, it's going to be...
Yeah, it's going to be huge for them.
Did you choose the color of your Ram, or what's the go there? Like,
we gotta choose.
Give me a bit of an insight into...
Yeah, so I'm going to choose a black one, actually. Yeah. I'm pretty excited for it. There's black, white, silver, or gray.
Yeah.
The black and gray, I think, were the best looking ones. But I think I'm gonna go with black.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Righto. So you're in the film room with the old man. Do you watch much film with him?
Yeah. We watched a lot of film together. Actually, we usually try and get it in like after every practice, or if we miss it, like we try and bunch it all in together.
Yeah.
But it's awesome watching film with him. Honestly, he helps me so much with like a whole bunch of little stuff, and anything that I miss that I should be doing, he helps me find and correct. So it's actually really nice.
And I know you mentioned it a bit before, but that off-field relationship compared to coming into the building, how is that?
Yeah, so he's very good at keeping like family and like son versus like athlete and coach. You know, he's like when we're at the facility, I'm like one of his one of the athletes he's teaching, and he really like drills it into me that it's like this is what you should do, this is how you could get better, this is like whatnot. And then like even like just shooting me texts like saying that he loves me and like whatnot.
Yeah.
He's awesome to me.
Yeah, nice. Now, has he told you about the time in high school that he broke the backboard? I think some people have been doing some digging around here.
Before I ever was able to dunk, he was always talking about how I smashed the backboard. Oh, I could break one right now. And I'm like, he loves that story for sure.
He is a big dude though.
Yeah.
And he's got some some big jukes on him. So
to get up there at 300 pounds is pretty impressive. Definitely something I couldn't do, but yeah, he never lets that one down.
When he fist bumps me,
It's
doesn't
like your whole
it
body
just consumes the
shakes.
hand. Speaking of the old man as well, what do you think's pretty similar between your game and his? Do you see any similarities or?
He's very bull rush centered when it comes to like rushing and whatnot. So like that's where we're a little bit different. I'm more of a speed guy, even though I have been like utilizing the bull rush a lot in the last few games, just because I've noticed like certain tendencies with the offensive tackles. Yeah. But I do think like our game is similar in that aspect, but at the same time different, because that was like his bread and butter. Like his game was he was stronger and more athletic than the guy across from him, so he's going to get underneath him and just drive him back. Yeah. And I'm kind of like a spin around, double swipe off the edge type of guy, so that's where we're different.
Yeah, I've noticed with the D-line, a bit of Euro stepping, a bit of 360s.
Yeah.
You and Logan.
Yeah, we're not like the usual DNs you see in Power 5 teams. Usually they're like 260, 255. We're a little bit lighter, but at the same time I would say we have like really good technique in the end game, so we're still solid in there, but on the edge, we're just a different kind of like speed. So I think it's pretty cool. Yeah.
To all the young youths out there, what do you think like the number one skill or technique that you would tell young fans or young players coming through the ranks? What do you think? What do you think they preach the most in the building?
Honestly, it's your mindset. I don't know if that's like a skill or technique, but like your mindset coming into college football is like you were once the best guy at your school, and now you're just a pea in the pod. You know, it's like everyone here was the guy at their school. Yeah. So you got to understand that like you have to put in that work and you have to put in the extra time, or you're going to be average just like everybody else. So that's like one thing that I would stress to younger guys is like you got to be different some way, and if that's like your work ethic and your mindset towards the game, that's what it is.
And I noticed for you boys, I know punters and kickers is a bit different, but the work day for you guys is just out of this world. The body would be pretty cooked after practice and stuff.
Yeah, so it's really mentally taxing, and that's where you got to be like mentally tough enough to stay in the program, especially a program like us where it really is.
That's what they preach, mental toughness.
Yeah. So
how many brothers you got in the league?
3. Yeah, 2 at the Eagles, 1 with the Falcons.
So what's the biggest lesson you've learned from them coming from the NFL?
Shoot, honestly, like my faith and like revolving like my life around the faith and everything else would come is kind of like what stood out to me the last year. I fell off a little bit in the past 2 years, but this year I've really started to come build my relationship with God and center my life around Him. So that's like one thing. They would always shoot me texts before the games talking about it, and I think it's awesome that like even through all their success, they still put God first, and I think that's what I'm trying to emulate in my game and in my life in general.
Yeah, nice, man. Your old man, as talented as he was, you told me that you don't get all the talent and the genes from him. Your mum was a former swimmer at the U, so just run us through how good your mum's been for you. Obviously, being a student athlete helps.
Yeah.
And mentoring you and stuff like that.
Oh, my mom's awesome. Like, she's probably like one of my biggest heroes to like ever walk this earth. Like, to have 12 kids and to be able to like spend time with each and every one of them and love them all how she does, it's like honestly so amazing. Like, I don't know how she did it, but she did, and she's just a saint for that.
Yeah, nice.
Yep. Big mama's boy over here.
I'm Jack Bomeister.
And I'm Jonah Elliss.
And you're watching Utefans.net.
Welcome back, Utefans. Just one more question, Cal. What is it? Well,
The hit that's been in everybody's mind and in the pit of their stomachs that we witnessed happen to Bryson Barnes at OSU. The guy was ejected. It was flagged, as it should have. But being a defensive player, just like me, it's hard to control your momentum. It's easy to demonize a player that has a dirty hit. That's the referee's job. But we are taught to play downhill on your toes, run through the guy. If you go back and look at the hit, he doesn't go through Bryson. He hits him late, and he pulls up, even though the outcome was horrendous, absolutely horrendous. Where is the fine line? Where is the fine line? Where as a defensive player do you start playing on your heels and possibly losing your job?
Well, I mean, that's a really good question, but it goes into the mindset of like our job, like you said, our job description as a secondary or as a defensive player, our job description is you don't think, you make plays. When you start making those thoughts of like whether I'm going to tackle somebody up top or take somebody's legs, they already scored. So when it comes to some of those hits, it's like you're moving quick. Everything is a reaction type of thing. And if you have to think, you're going to be in the wrong. So to see like that play happen, it's sad that it happened. And I'm definitely not against it because this what we're trying to make it safe for us, is making it safe for the next generation. And
making it sustainable.
Yes. But it's, once again, it's one of the toughest things to do because when you're going at 100 speed, like 100 miles per hour, your mind is not thinking, it's reacting like I was mentioning. And it's so difficult as a defensive player nowadays in this era to play and not feel like you're going to get penalized, like because it's an offensive game. You have to put points up on the scoreboard. And when you're a defensive back or just a defensive player, it puts you at a short end of the stick, I say, when it comes to certain plays. And that play was a play where I feel like he could have went either way. It could have, because he let off. But he tried his best. But it's just one of those things of you're moving too fast. So you don't think, because once you think, you lose a job. You think you get a score. You get a touchdown on your head if you think. It's one of those things. So it's just it's very, very tough to kind of play at full speed. And it's also tough to try to make sure you can will in that excitement of being able to make a tackle or just make a play. And then all of a sudden you make the wrong play and it just looks bad on film.
Now, do you guys think that the rule changes, the leading with the crown of the helmet, which is all legitimate and for the safety of the players, but is it going to make that big of a difference in the long run, or are there other areas that they could tweak in the rule book to make people even more safe?
It's tough. It's tough because me being 6'3", okay, now there's a 5'10" receiver that's running across the middle, and I got to make a decision to try to hit him somewhere like in the lower part of his body. He's already low. He's gonna brace himself, and when he braces himself, his helmet goes low. My helmet is trying to get lower than his, so boom, it's a hit. And guess what that looks like? It looked like I intentionally tried to take him out when height, weight, what he's doing, what I'm doing is just tough. It's so hard to try to figure out how to put that into one of those perspectives of like, who's the one that's doing bad and when that play happens?
Andy, can a fullback lead with his head through the hole?
No.
Yes. A fullback can lead. They can cover the ball and lead with their helmet just like that. But if you were on defense and you crossed the hole like that to make the tackle, you're penalized.
Heck yeah.
What about the tush push?
Oh, man.
The big debate in the NFL right now. It's injuring players. But you cannot push a defensive lineman from behind to block a field goal. But you can do it on offense. And I love what you said, because I've mentioned to Andy, football rules are geared towards offense. Because if it wasn't, what would it be? Soccer. And I have nothing against soccer.
I say it all the time.
Fans get in the seats to see the scoreboard get lit up, or defensive championships like the Ravens in the Super Bowl, or like we tune into weekly here. But in the end, is it a Band-Aid fix, or are we really worried about the players' health, or is it a Band-Aid fix? I mean, and now the debate of turf. Now, turf could be a big problem causing the injuries. Will universities and institutions be willing to make those investments to go back to natural grass if that is rooted as a big problem? Is it really about the players, or is it just about a Band-Aid or distraction?
Well, I just have to say, Bryson Barnes is one of Utefans.net's athletes. We've had him on the show a couple times.
Absolutely, we love him.
He's a great guest. We're wishing him a speedy recovery. Hopefully he's watching. Robert, thanks for joining us on the show.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Really appreciate you. You're a great one. One of the best Utes to ever put on a uniform here.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And Ute fans, thanks for tuning in to The Extra Point, brought to you by the Ken Garff University Club and presented by Utefans.net, the original home for Ute fans. Check us out on all streaming platforms, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to check us out on Instagram at Utefans.net, and go Utes.